The last year and 2 months has been one of the most critical in Israel's modern history. From the aftermath of the devastating Hamas attacks on October 7th to the toppling of the Assad Regime in Syria, Israel's position in the region has never been more precarious or more pivotal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has faced challenges on every front. In Gaza, he launched an unprecedented campaign against Hamas. In the north, he directed decisive action against Hezbollah and their Iranian backers. And now, with Syria's regime collapsing, Netanyahu's leadership is being tested like never before. Make sure to like this video, click the thanks button to support our work, and share it with others who care about Israel's future. Let's dive in. On October 7, 2023, Israel woke up to one of the darkest days in its history. A massive surprise attack by Hamas shattered the calm, leading to the deaths of over 1,000 civilians and the abduction of more than 200 hostages. It was an act of terror that stunned the world and brought Israel to the brink of an all-out war. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation with a clear message. Hamas would pay a heavy price for its actions. What followed was an unprecedented military operation aimed at dismantling Hamas's infrastructure, eliminating its leadership, and rescuing the hostages. But as the days turned into weeks and then months, criticism began to mount. Why was the operation taking so long? Netanyahu explained that this war was unlike any Israel had fought before. He said, quote, "This is a war against an enemy embedded in civilian areas and hidden beneath the ground. Hamas had built itself a vast network of tunnels and fortifications to protect itself, and dismantling it requires precision, patience, and perseverance. Unlike past conflicts where Israel sought to deliver quick and decisive blows, the 2023 Gaza war revealed the depth of Hamas's military preparation. Its vast underground tunnel network, referred to as the Gaza Metro, required painstaking efforts to locate and destroy. Each operation was methodical, prioritizing the safety of IDF soldiers and minimizing harm to civilians where possible. Over the course of the operation, Israel made significant progress. By late 2024, more than 130 hostages had been returned to their families, and Hamas's leadership was severely weakened. But these victories came at a cost, both in Israeli lives and in the destruction faced by Gaza's population. Netanyahu said the following: "We have two objectives in this war: bring our hostages home and eliminate Hamas as a military and governing force. These goals are inseparable, and we are committed to achieving both." The war in Gaza also sparked intense debate within Israel and around the world. Critics questioned the human toll, the extended timeline, and the international backlash. Yet Netanyahu remained steadfast, framing the conflict as part of a broader existential struggle against terror. Hamas is not just an enemy of Israel, it's an enemy of humanity. The atrocities committed on October 7th remind us what is at stake, not just for us, but for all who value freedom and justice, said Netanyahu. Despite the challenges, the IDF continued to achieve major breakthroughs. Advanced technology, superior intelligence, and the dedication of Israeli soldiers ensured that Hamas' operational capabilities were systematically dismantled. Do you think Israel's strategy in Gaza was effective? Could it have been handled differently, or was this approach the only way to secure Israel's future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As the war in Gaza raged on, Israel faced a looming threat from the north. Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed terror group in Lebanon, had amassed over 150,000 rockets aimed at Israel's cities and towns. For years, this arsenal had been a ticking time bomb. With tensions rising, Hezbollah made its move, launching a series of provocations along the northern border. The question was no longer if, but when Israel would respond. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a preemptive campaign to neutralize the threat before it escalated into a full-scale war. Netanyahu said the following: "We are dealing with an enemy that has embedded its weapons within civilian areas, constructed underground cities, and prepared to strike at the heart of Israel. But we will not allow them to succeed. Hezbollah must understand that we will strike with overwhelming force." The Northern Campaign was launched with a clear strategy: target Hezbollah's infrastructure, leadership, and advanced weapons systems, while protecting Israel's northern communities. The operation began with precision strikes on underground bunkers and weapons depots. One of the most pivotal moments came when Israel targeted Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader and the architect of its terror network. His elimination was seen as a direct blow to the group's command structure and a message to Iran and its proxies across the region. Striking Nasrallah, says Netanyahu, wasn't just about Hezbollah. It was a blow to Iran's terror network. It sent a clear message: no one who threatens Israel will be safe. But the decision to eliminate Nasrallah was not without controversy. Within Israel's leadership, some expressed concerns about provoking a wider conflict with Iran. International allies also urged caution, warning of potential escalation. Netanyahu, however, stood firm. Despite the risks, Israel achieved significant victories in the north. Hezbollah's rocket stockpiles were depleted, its underground tunnels destroyed, and its command structure crippled. The campaign sent shockwaves through the region, signaling a shift in the balance of power. Yet questions remain. Has Hezbollah been permanently weakened, or will it rebuild and return stronger? And what role will Iran play in the aftermath of this conflict? Our message to Hezbollah and Iran is clear. Israel will not tolerate threats to its sovereignty. We are prepared to act decisively no matter the cost, said Netanyahu. The Northern Campaign also showcased the resilience of Israel's northern communities. Despite facing months of uncertainty and rocket fire, civilians showed remarkable strength and unity, even as the IDF worked tirelessly to secure the region. What do you think of Israel's Northern Campaign? Was eliminating Nasrallah and targeting Hezbollah's infrastructure the right move? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For over a decade, Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria survived against the odds, relying on support from Iran, Hezbollah, and Russian intervention. But as 2024 unfolded, the foundations of his power began to crumble. Protests swept through Damascus, and Assad's grip on power faltered. By late 2024, the unthinkable had happened. The Assad regime collapsed, marking the end of one of the most tyrannical chapters in Syria's history. Prime Minister Netanyahu described this moment as both an opportunity and a danger. He said the following: "This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of Assad's regime is a direct result of our decisive actions against Hezbollah and Iran, but it also poses new threats. The border with Syria is now a question mark, and Israel must act swiftly to secure its interests." The collapse was triggered by a series of events that began months earlier. Israeli strikes targeting Hezbollah and Iranian proxies in Syria disrupted their operations, weakening Assad's primary supporters. With pressure mounting, protests in Syria intensified, creating a chain reaction that led to the regime's fall. But as Assad's regime crumbled, so did the long-standing 1974 separation of forces agreement between Syria and Israel, a treaty that had maintained stability along the border for nearly 50 years. Syrian forces abandoned their positions near the Golan Heights, leaving a dangerous vacuum. To prevent hostile forces from embedding themselves near our border, said Netanyahu, I have ordered the IDF to take temporary control of these positions. This is not an expansion, it's a necessary defensive measure to ensure Israel's security. The rapid collapse of the Syrian army left Israel with critical questions. What comes next? Who will fill the power vacuum in Syria? And what role should Israel play in shaping the region's future? Netanyahu extended a hand of peace to emerging factions within Syria, including Kurds, Christians, and even moderate Muslim groups, signaling a willingness to build bridges in a new era for the region. To all those who want peace, said Netanyahu, we stand ready to work with you. To those who threaten Israel, let me be clear, we will do whatever it takes to defend our borders. The collapse of Assad's regime also reverberated through Israel's security apparatus. Questions arose about whether this would embolden Iran to expand its influence in the region or whether it signaled a weakening of Tehran's ambitions. Meanwhile, the humanitarian crisis in Syria has worsened. Millions of Syrians are now displaced, facing uncertainty about their future. Israel has expressed concerns about the stability of its borders while offering limited humanitarian aid to those affected. Despite the risks, some see the collapse of Assad's regime as an opportunity for Israel to reshape the regional landscape. With Hezbollah and Iran on the back foot, could this be the moment to push back against years of encroachment by Israel's enemies? What do you think Israel's next move should be? Should it work with emerging factions in Syria or focus solely on securing its borders? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. While the war in Gaza and the campaign against Hezbollah have dominated headlines, The shadow of Iran looms larger than ever. For decades, Iran has been the primary sponsor of terror in the region, funding groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and pursuing nuclear weapons to solidify its positions as a regional superpower. Prime Minister Netanyahu has long warned of Iran's ambitions. With its advanced nuclear program and regional proxy networks, Iran represents an existential threat to Israel and a destabilizing force for the entire Middle East. Netanyahu said the following: Iran doesn't just threaten Israel, it threatens the world. A nuclear-armed Iran would put every city in the United States, Europe, and beyond within range of destruction. We will not allow that to happen. The conflicts in the past year intensified the stakes. Israel's strikes against Iranian infrastructure in Syria disrupted supply lines and weakened Tehran's proxies, but it also exposed the limits of conventional warfare against a regime determined to achieve its nuclear ambitions. As Iran inches closer to becoming a nuclear threshold state, Israel has been forced to weigh its options. Covert operations, cyber attacks, and direct military strikes have all been employed to delay Iran's nuclear progress, but Netanyahu has made it clear that these are stopgap measures. We have delayed Iran's nuclear program by years, said Netanyahu, through relentless action, but delaying is not enough. We must ensure that Iran never becomes a nuclear power. In the midst of these efforts, Israel has faced increasing isolation in the international community. While some allies like the United States support Israel's stance, others urge caution, fearing regional escalation. This has not deterred Netanyahu, who continues to lobby for global action against Tehran. But the Iranian threat isn't limited to its nuclear program. Tehran's proxies remain active across the region, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen. Each of these groups acts as an arm of Iran's strategy to encircle and weaken Israel. The collapse of Assad's regime in Syria has further complicated this picture. While Iran's influence there has been weakened, its intentions remain clear: to establish a land corridor from Tehran to the Mediterranean, giving it direct access to Israel's borders. As Iran continues its pursuit of dominance, Israel is left with a critical question. How far is it willing to go to stop Iran's ambitions? Covert sabotage and airstrikes have delayed progress, but can Israel act alone if diplomacy fails? Netanyahu said the following: if the world does not act, Israel will. The price of inaction is far greater than the risks of decisive action. The Iranian threat also carries a human cost. As Israel prepares for potential conflict, its citizens live under the constant fear of missile strikes and nuclear escalation. The IDF is training for scenarios once thought unthinkable: a multi-front war involving Iran and its proxies. What do you think about Israel's strategy against Iran? Should Israel take preemptive action against Iran's nuclear facilities, or should it wait for international support? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As Israel navigates these tumultuous times, Netanyahu's leadership has shaped a nation poised to confront its enemies while extending a hand of peace. From the ruins of Gaza to the shifting dynamics in Syria, one thing remains clear: Israel's future depends on strength, resilience, and unity. Netanyahu said the following: the future of the Middle East is being written now. Together, we will ensure that Israel emerges stronger, more secure, and ready to face whatever lies ahead. Do you think Netanyahu's vision will secure Israel's future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and click thanks to support this channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.